Good afternoon. I'm Charlotte, and you are watching The Ugly Atheist. In today's episode, I'm going to delve into the cesspool that is Reddit. I have a post pulled up, and I'm going to react to it. I'm going to react to it because I know that's why you all tune in to watch my videos in droves, is because of my amazing insight and opinion on all things religious, or maybe you just like seeing the funny looking person. This says the question is posed by r/ex Christian, it looks like. JL or JJ Lees. Okay. Has anyone's life changed for the better since becoming an atheist/agnostic? So they're including um, two different claims, I guess. So, and as you know, atheism is a claim to belief, and Gnosticism is a claim to knowledge, like whether or not you know something to be the case versus whether or not you believe something to be the case. So, somebody like myself, I believe that there is no God, so I'm an atheist, but I'm an agnostic atheist because I don't know for sure, because nobody can know. It is not the kind of claim that is provable or disprovable. So I am also agnostic with regard to the Easter Bunny and the unicorns. There's no way to possibly know for sure, um, but you can certainly believe that there are no unicorns or Easter bunnies. Um, but that being said, let's get into today's reading. My mother told me about a movie/show she watched where a Christian and an atheist were arguing about which was better. They agreed that they would determine who was right or something by bringing in people whose lives had been changed for the better by their belief, or lack thereof, I suppose. Obviously, the Christian found hundreds of people willing to claim God changed their lives for the better, but the atheist couldn't find a single person. While I understand that we atheists wouldn't attribute good fortune in our lives to our lack of a godlike, a religious person would, I do personally feel like I am better off as an atheist and that life is better now that I'm not deluding myself. Does anyone else agree? My opinion is that the religious life, religious belief, is clearly more. Um, I think it adds a level of richness to your life, and by that I mean if you have an ordinary mundane life, or if your life is wrought with turmoil and suffering, and you introduce the idea into your life of there being some magnificent being who is orchestrating your life and who has an incredible, amazing plan for you, that is one of the most powerful claims and beliefs that any human can adopt. I've seen this kind of thing, as I've mentioned in previous episodes. I've seen this belief system or this claim get people off of drugs, and people turn their lives around. They used to be engaged in criminal activity and are now law-abiding citizens helping the needy. Um, I've seen it heal marriages and relationships. I've seen it bring people um, out of depression and despair and into just a glorious ministry where their lives are fulfilled. It is, I think, religion is clearly more beneficial to people's lives um, overall. But I think that in order for religion to have that kind of an effect on the average person, that person has to have gone through something horrible to which religion seems like just the best possible answer to their desperation. If you've had just a normal, boring life and you're content with your life, um, there's not as much of a draw. Religion doesn't really have the same flavor that it would for someone who's living in desperation. Um, but I think on average, it does change people's lives for the better. Because imagine it, you're suddenly thrust into a scenario where you have this purpose, and not just any purpose, but the purpose of the creator of the universe. What more incredible calling is that on your life? And if you feel led to travel to another country or something to do God's work, I mean, that is just an absolute adventure of a lifetime. How fulfilling would that be if you start to interpret everything that happens along your journey as a sign from God, as a sign that you're doing His will, you're on the right path. Just life becomes magical. It's amazing. And I used to be a Christian, so I understand all of this, the dynamics involved with being a believer. Um, Atheism, on the other hand, there is really no such calling. Atheism is just a realization like, oh, shoot, wait a minute, God's not real. Darn it. Okay. Well, so I got to figure out what to do with my life now. There's no higher calling necessarily. I mean, you can still, um, find purpose, but it's not in a nice, neat little package the way it is with religion. It's something you have to like strive for, even if you even have the energy to do it. Like, I know for me, I get so busy with work and other parts of life that I don't really have time to find some kind of a purpose or calling. I mean, I'm not wouldn't say I'm purposeless, but I would say my purpose has become sort of taking care of my elderly mom, working so I can pay bills and save up for dreams of the future. Um, and a lot of my week is spent either driving because I commute to work and it's a long commute. Um, when I get home, I'm eating, cooking, eating, and then by that time I'm spent. So I go to sleep because I got to wake up so early. So it's kind of this endless cycle. And I don't believe a religious minded person would be okay with that. They would just simply say, like, there's got to be more to life than this. God, help me find the purpose. And I've had moments like that where like, oh, this can't be all there is. It's got to be something more than just this tedious, you know, lifestyle. That's all just running errands and just going through the same motions week after week. Like, I don't feel like I'm building towards something, but I mean, I know I am because my savings accounts is growing and growing, which is fine. And when I get to a certain point, I'll be able to take a next step. But in the meantime, it just feels like such drudgery. Um, but I feel also patience about it. Like, I don't feel necessarily any huge urgency. I do feel I do put pressure on myself, but yeah, the person who wrote this post said, we atheists wouldn't attribute good fortune in our lives to our lack of a God like religious person would. Um, yeah, so if something good happens in the life of an atheist, I know for me, I can speak for myself. I I would I usually feel thankful and grateful, but because there's nobody really to thank other than, hard work and random chance and just opportunities line up or events line up to create sort of a good outcome for a certain situation. But I do still kind of, in a poetic sense, thank God, or I thank, or I say sometimes I'll say, oh, whatever it is that's responsible for this good fortune, thank you. Not that they would anything would hear that gratefulness, but I think it's important to have a grateful heart, regardless if you think there's a God out there listening or not. So that's sort of my takeaway on this is I'm always full of gratitude, and I try to direct it at something, but so whatever, you know, deserves the thanks for whatever good fortune I have, that's where I direct my gratitude. Um, I think it's important for so a lot of Christians grow up in a household where their parents are already Christians, and so and I'm going to get into this is sort of why I'm bringing this up now is I'm going to get into the kind of the importance of atheism. Um, I I feel like if you grew up in a household where your parents were Christian or religious, rather, it could be Muslim or Hindu or whatever, and you kind of by default adopt that belief system, where I think atheism comes in as a useful tool is that at some point you need to make the faith your own. Like, it's one thing to say, "Oh, my mom and dad are Catholic, so that means I'm Catholic." Yeah, sure, culturally, but I think you need to come to a place of faith on your own terms, and I think that atheism offers that sort of an offshoot from the main flow of the river, so you can kind of take a step back and say, what is it exactly I believe? Because these things in the Bible or this thing in the, you know, Quran or whatever make like zero sense to me, and it seems ridiculous, to be quite honest. But I, so if you go through it, if you have serious questions and you go through a period of skepticism and disbelief, but then I think it's important to get back into a faith, not necessarily one of your parents, but something where you're able to plug in and understanding that most of the things that you're going to hear at your chosen temple or church or whatever is going to be mostly just allegory, or it's not going to be taken literally. And I think that's okay for atheists to get plugged into a church of some kind or a religious system of some kind, with the understanding that it's all just analogies and allegories, but they're useful allegories. They're useful analogies and parables and stories that sort of summarize the wisdom of millennia of human wisdom. And I don't think the Bible is to be taken lightly in that regard, or any other of our religious texts that we have throughout the world. I mean, some are kind of ridiculous, and I won't go into detail as to which ones are just kind of problematic. But I think Christianity as a whole, I think, is a net positive for humanity, as I mentioned before. And I think that it's okay for atheists to get plugged into a Christian church, and again, with the understanding that it's all relatively BS on a literal sense. I mean, there's no Adam and Eve, no worldwide flood. Um, snakes and donkeys don't talk, and all of that is points to a larger narrative that is something that was going to benefit you as an atheist and benefit you as a human being and as a part of human culture. And I don't know. I feel like atheism is very useful to have atheists in the world, because we shine the light on a lot of BS, but it doesn't mean that we're the pillars of morality necessarily. Though all the atheists I know have been very, very way more moral and ethical than a lot of believers. So I don't know if there's something about atheism that attracts people who are looking for a higher standard of morality, or who take morality more seriously. Um, I that is a claim, but I don't know. I'd have to think about that some more. But yeah, I think that to to summarize, Christianity and religion does bring more benefits to people's lives, and atheism brings some benefit. And I think it is a tool to be used by people of faith to take a step back from their religion and to understand it in a more realistic light. Um, Not to abandon their faith altogether, but to sort of change their focus on what parts of their faith are actually the important takeaways, and what parts are like, okay, that's a funny story, but here's the underlying meaning. Like just that the Garden of Eden, the Garden of Eden, and Adam and Eve, hilarious. Talking snakes, funny, but there is an underlying story that is super saturated with wisdom, and it's something that we would do well to try to figure out and learn. Um, and not to mention, of course, there's the social aspect of religion, where you're plugged into a community and you're making friends and connections, and um, people are helping each other. They're improving your life, you're improving their lives. Everybody shares each other's skills and talents and gifts, and it's just part of building community. And I think atheists need to understand that and kind of approach it from that angle. So I've rambled on enough on this. My name is Charlotte. You're watching The Ugly Atheist. And if you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you next week.